Grade 12 Economics. Please welcome Mr. Mhlongo. Mr. Mhlongo is here with you to take you on economics revision sessions. Welcome to Grade 12 Economics Class of 2024. I believe this lesson will have a greater impact as you have just joined the group of Grade 12 and as we also plan for greater results for this year. Like I've said before, I'm Mr. Mhlongo. I'll be with you throughout this lesson in economics. Today, we are here in our first lesson, taking on macroeconomics. Under macroeconomics, the main concern is on topic number 1, which is the circular flow. In the circular flow, we'll be dealing with all subtopics which include the circular flow model, circular flow participants, the markets of the circular flow, national accounts, as well as the multiplier. So please join me. Let's see what I have in the pocket for you. So the following are the lesson objectives that will be achieved during the course of this lesson. So after this lesson, you will be able to draw and explain circular flow and its concepts. You will be able to discuss the importance and the interaction between participants in the circular flow. You will also know how to discuss circular flow markets. Remember, that's an essay for our current examination guideline. You'll also know how to compile national accounts, and it will lead you on to be able to answer some typical questions on national accounts from section A to section B. It will also equip you on doing the multiplier. You will be able to calculate the multiplier. You will know more about the multiplier process and the creation. It will also enable you to be able to know the difference between the MPC, the MPS. Also, still on the multiplier, you will be able to calculate the multiplier effect. It is believed that you already know the following information on the circular flow. This content based on circular flow include the closed economy on the circular flow that was covered in grade 10. Interaction between participants has been covered before, but now we are going in detail. Leakages and injections in the circular flow. Circular flow markets in a closed economy. This is our lesson. Our lesson includes circular flow diagram, the participants of the circular flow market, leakages and injections, national accounts, and the multiplier. According to the annual teaching plan, it is believed that we have already covered the whole of these topics as we are in with 2 Friday today. So the big question is, why circular flow? Why in this content of grade 12 we are doing circular flow? Remember, circular flow simply indicates to us how goods and services, including money, flow from one participant to another. So it is very important for you to know more about that, because circular flow gives us a light or enlightens us about how do factors of production flow from households to the government and also to firms. And then in return, what is paid for those factors of production? Meaning we consider the money flow and the real flow. As factors of production are flowing from households via factor market to the government and also to businesses, that's a real flow. And then in return, they are compensated the likes of wages and salaries, the interest on capital, rent for land, as well as profit for entrepreneurship. And then we also check how are goods and services flowing from firms to all other participants in the economy, going via product market, even flowing to the foreign sector. We're also checking that. So circular flow is giving us that information on how these goods and services flow from one participant to another. Remember, they flow via product market to household, and also they also flow to the foreign sector. We also check the movement of money from household or from all participants to the financial sector and financial markets into the economy or circular flow. We are checking all of those things. The circular flow also is more informative about the movement of goods from South Africa to foreign countries and also from foreign countries to South Africa. So we check the export and the import. It talks to also the payment for those, for that movement of goods and services. And then it also gives us more details on the national accounts to say how are factors of production, and then also how is money, expenditure, goods and services move from one sector to another. It talks to the likes of the income method, which measures the level of income earned by South African or local factors of production, local and international. Also, what we call the product market, the production method, which also measures the contribution by each economic sector in the economy, where we can name primary sector, secondary, as well as tertiary sector. We also measure the expenditure by each participant in the economy, or by each sector, which include the household sector, business sector, government sector, as well as the foreign sector. It also goes straight to the multiplier also, where we check the effect of injections and leakages in the economy. We are checking how do leakages affect the circular flow and the economy, and how do injections affect the economy. We check how does that affect the value of the multiplier and also the multiplier effect. So this is the circular flow diagram drawn and explained in a simple way. So remember, we have 4 participants in the open economy, and then we have 4 markets. So let's check we have a household. Remember, we say households are the primary owners of factors of production, which are sold to firms and businesses via the factor market. That's why we have a factor market coming up there. We are having factor of production moving, and then these factors of production are sold to government as well as firms. So we see them being sold to government, and they're also sold to who? To firms or businesses. There we see firms receiving factors of production from the households via the factor market. Then in return, they must be paid for. So there are remunerations that are paid to the household for these factors of production, which include the likes of interest on capital, wages and salaries for labor, rent for land, as well as profit for entrepreneurship. So we see this line here indicates a remuneration of factors of production, which is our money flow. Then there we see remunerations going up there, and then the government is also paying for those factors of production that were sold, and then it goes straight to the household as the one who was selling the factors of production. Remember that after the household have received income, what happened? They pay tax to the government. Then we see they have to pay tax to the state. As they pay tax on their income, what will happen? The government in return will be converting that tax revenue into public goods and services. We see them having to receive public goods and services. We also have to see the government providing social transfers to the household so that there can be improvement of social well-being. I mean those who are unemployed and those that are underprivileged. So that now we have income. Remember, after having that income, tax has been paid, we receive public goods and services, and also social transfers. We have amount of money remaining or income remaining that should be spent on buying goods and services. So there must be a market created by businesses so that household can get goods and services very close to them instead of going straight to buy from firms. So we come across goods being supplied into that market that I was talking about. The market has been created. This is the market that is called the product market. Is created. Then that's where the government, that's where the businesses and the household meet very close to exchange goods and services. We see goods and services moving straight to the product market. Then consumers or households will be demanding these goods from the product market, for which in return they will have to pay for those goods and services. You see goods and services are moving straight to the household, and then households are paying for those goods and services to firms. So you see that money goes straight to firms. So we know that after firms have received their income, they will do what? They will be paying tax to the government. So households, let's see, we see in there also an arrow that is indicating the public goods and services. Also, we see, the economic goods and services here. These are economic goods and services because remember, the government also buy goods from firms. through the product market so that they can be converted to public goods and services that are provided to the society. And then we see those goods and services are bought by the government, and they are also paid for by the government, those goods and services from firms. And then we see the payment for goods and services, the payment for goods and services. And then what if households are having extra income available, or they have less income, they want to get more money? They will be taking loans from financial sector. We see the loans are coming in, or which are known as borrowing. The color is good because it indicates that in the circular flow we are receiving extra income or more money. And then also, if they have extra money, they will be saving that money or investing that money in the financial institution. Then we have savings going out there. And then also, we have firms that will be producing goods to import, and then they will be also importing, they will be producing goods to export. They will also be importing some capital goods or machinery. Let's see, we have inflow of goods from foreign countries. Those are imports. Imports are flowing in. And then at the same time, we have the payment for imports. So the payment for imports is going out there, meaning that imports are leakages. So after receiving those goods, you must pay for them. And then after that, as local firms are producing more goods and services, they are also selling into the foreign sector. So we see exports going out that indicate exports are going out of the country, and in return, exports will be paid for by the foreign sector. Then we'll be receiving the income in terms of foreign currency as payment for exports. And then it goes in there. We see firms are paying tax to the government after they've received their profit, and then at the same time, the government simply provide public goods and services to firms. So this is a simple model of circular flow in the open economy that which include the full sector model or the four sector model. Remember, it has four participants, namely households, which are consumers, firms or businesses, government or the state, as well as the foreign sector. There are also four markets in there, which include the factor market, the product market, financial market, as well as the foreign exchange market. In this circular flow, we have what we call the money flow and the real flow. So the flow of factors of production going down the from household via factor market to government and also to firms, that's a real flow. And then the flow of money or the payment or remunerations back to the household is known as a money flow. So they always flow to the opposite direction, the money flow and the real flow. We also have the same thing where we see the money flow from households paying tax. That's a money flow when they pay tax to the government, and then the government provide public goods and services. That's a real flow. Then we also have the money flow to the financial sector, whereby a household or all participants are borrowing money from financial sector. The money flowing in as borrowings, and also money flows out as what we call as savings or investment to the financial sector, where people are saving their money. And then we also have the flow of goods and services, which is the real flow. Goods and services are flowing from firms to the market, where consumers can find goods very, very easy, and they flow from product market to household. Then they go home there to consumers. Then we see the goods and sales are flowing to the household. Then after that, we see the money flow continues, whereby households are paying for goods and services to the firms. And then also we have the likes of the government having to demand goods from the product market, which are bought from actually firms, but they are bought in the market. Those are goods and services being bought. Then that's a payment for those goods and services. Also, we see the flow of goods and services, which is the real flow. The imports are coming into the country here, going in or coming in, and then there's a payment for imports going out in there. And then that's a money flow and the real flow. So they always flow to the opposite direction. We also have the likes of exports going out. Goods have been produced, they are sold abroad, they are going out of this country's economy, and then in return, we receive income in terms of the foreign currency as the payment for those exported goods and services. So that we have money flow and the real flow. Remember, money flow is the flow of money between all participants in the economy, and the real flow is the flow of goods and services, as well as factors of production between active participants in the economy. Also remember that here we have the closed economy and the open economy. If we talk about the closed economy, we talk about the economy that exclude the foreign sector. But if it's an open economy, it includes the foreign sector. That was a simple circular flow model. And then the four sector model circular flow. So the inclusion of the foreign sector formulates the open economy, like I said. If ever the circular flow includes the foreign sector, that is known to be an open economy. This is when the country is open to trade with the rest of the world through imports, exports, investments, transfers, and as well as the transfer of capital. The equation for the open economy is C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Remember, C stands for consumption spending by the household. I stand for investment spending by businesses. G stands for government spending. And then we plus the net export. These represent the net export. Net exports, which means we take our exported goods minus the imported goods, then we will be discovering what you call the net export, which include the foreign sector. From here, it's one sector model. On C, on I is two sector model. On G is three sector model. On X minus M, there is a full sector model, meaning the economy is open to the foreign trade, where goods can be imported and exported. Investments can flow from one country to another. So the X minus M part of the equation shows the net export, like I mentioned, which is the difference between exports and imports. So we have different participants in the economy or circular flow, namely households or consumers, businesses or firms, government or the state, as well as the foreign sector. They all have their own responsibility or role that they play in the circular flow or in the economy. Let's check what is played, the role that is played by the household in the economy. Household, remember, they are known as the primary owners of factors of production, such as labor, capital, entrepreneurship, as well as natural resources or land. So they are very important in the economy because they own those factors of production, which are very important for the production to occur. These factors of production are converted by businesses as well as the state to goods and services that can be sold to consumers or can be distributed within the economy. Households sell factors of production to business and the government. We know that's a fact. Factors of production sold by households are converted to goods and services, which contribute positively to the GDP of the country. Household earn income and pay personal income tax. We know that after they earn their income, I've indicated on the circular flow, they pay personal income tax on their income, which is very important for the government because it can be redistributed to ensure social welfare and also the provision of public goods and services. We continue with the role of the household in the economy. Households are the primary consumers of goods and services from firms through the product market. We know that households are the ones that consume the most of consumer goods in the economy from firms, but they consume them via the product market. The increase in demand for goods and services by household increase the demand for labor and lead to job creation. We know that if ever consumers are demanding more goods and services, that will lead to firms having to demand more labor force, so they will be employing more workers, which will lead to increase in economy even further because those people that have just been employed by firms will be earning income and demand goods and services even further. The purchase of consumer goods and services from product market is accompanied by an indirect tax that is called the value-added tax. Remember, this taxation is very important because it contributes to the state revenues that can be used to ensure improvement of wellness in the economy and as well as the society. Households employed abroad and the foreign currency. So if households are employed abroad, we mean those households that have sold their labor or their factors of production abroad. They earn the foreign currency in there, which is very important in the country. So a household employed abroad and the foreign countries, as they are remunerated for their factors of production, that increase the country's national income. As we receive income from the foreign sector, which is the payment for our labor and or other factors of production, that contribute positive to the country's national income. Then businesses. What are the businesses doing positively in the economy? We know that they buy factors of production or they purchase factors of production from households via factor market and pay for them, which result to what we call the money flow in the economy. So they formulate the flow of money in the economy because after households have sold their factors of production, they are paid for, which creates money flow in the economy that can go further to other participants. Businesses transform factors of production to goods and services which are necessary for GDP creation as well as economic growth. After those factors of production have been formulated by businesses, they will be calculated to final goods and services in the economy, which will be contributing to the GDP of the country as well as economic growth. So they are important for that because they create the GDP of the country. Businesses pay corporate tax or company tax to the government on their profits. So after they've earned their profits, business will always be paying the company tax or corporate tax to the state, which can be used by the government through redistribution to fund small businesses in the economy. We call them SMMEs, small, micro, and medium enterprises in the economy. So they are funded by the government through this amount that is received from company tax or corporate taxes. Businesses are the main exporters of goods and services. We know that businesses produce extra goods and services and sell them into the foreign markets, which will be earning more foreign currency for the country. So, like it's been mentioned, businesses are the main exporters of goods and services to the foreign markets, which earn the foreign currency for the country. They increase wealth creation through capital formation as they purchase assets. We know that businesses are the ones that are mostly investing in the economy. So as they invest, that causes the increase in the capital formation of the country, which is known to be an investment. They create job opportunities for the unemployed, which include all levels of labor, namely skilled labor, semi-skilled, as well as non-skilled labor. They will be earning income on that, which will be very important on the improvement of the standards of living for the nation and for the society. And then the role of the government in the economy. So the state provides infrastructure to create good platform for businesses to function in the economy. We know that the state is the one that's responsible for the provision of the infrastructure that allows businesses to invest the most in the country's economy. Businesses provide direct and indirect subsidies the business provide to the government or to the state in order to increase the productivity for improvement of the economy. So we mean the state here make the provision of what we call direct and indirect subsidies to businesses so that businesses can be able to do what? To produce more goods and services. So the government intervene to support small businesses or other business in the economy through the production subsidies. As they are receiving production subsidies, they can be able to produce more goods and services at the lower cost, and then that will lead to more GDP. Also, those subsidies can include the subsidies on production for goods and services, also the subsidies on employment or employment subsidies that can allow them to employ more workers at the lower cost. That will lead to them or them producing more goods and services. The state provides public goods and services to the society to reduce high level of inequalities and improve social welfare. So the government also intervene by providing public goods and services to the entire society so that there will be improvement of the social welfare or the standard of living in the societies. The state provides social transfers to the underprivileged. We know that the state make the provision of social transfers to the underprivileged or to the marginalized people so that they will be able to afford the basic living within the country. And then the foreign sector creates platform for businesses to participate in the foreign market. So it creates the foreign market for whom? For businesses across the world. They are then able to export goods and import goods. They can sell their goods locally or abroad. So when they sell them abroad, they sell them in foreign or global markets, which is created by what? By the foreign sector. It reduces scarcity of resources within the economy or in the world. So we know that some countries are lacking some resources, but they are able to get those resources from other countries that are having an absolute advantage. That allows the reduction of the scarcity of resources. For instance, South Africa is lacking most of capital resources as well as technology. So South Africa is able to receive those resources through the foreign sector because it's able to import and also export the surplus production it is having. Then the scarcity will be reduced. And then interaction between participants. It is very important for you to remember that if ever you are dealing with interaction between participants, you have the opposite direction. If one is buying or one is supplying a particular product, one is paying for the particular product. If we are giving interaction, you deal with what you call reciprocity in there. As one receives, one is paying for such product or good or a service. So whenever you are given a chance or required to give interaction, you need to show the link between those participants. So we talk about households and firms here. So we know that households sell factors of production to whom? To firms, and in return, firms pay for those factors of production in terms of wages, salaries, profits, rent, as well as interest. So like I've said before, households sell their factors of production then to firms and the government, and then firms will be paying for those factors of production, paying remunerations. So that's what we call reciprocity. Firms produce goods and services and sell them to the household, which in return household pay for them. So after firms have produced goods and services, households will be buying those goods and pay for them to firms. And then businesses create a market for households as consumers to buy goods and services. So the market will be created by firms For whom? For consumers. Then consumers will be buying those goods. So remember, the market is where goods and services are supplied. Then consumers demand those goods and services from the market, which are coming from firms as they have created the market. The households and the government. Households sell factors of production to the government. In return, they are paid for in terms of remunerations. And then also we have household pay personal income tax to the government and value-added tax as they purchase goods and services in the market. The government makes provision of public goods and services to the society to improve standard of living and reduce economic inequalities. After the personal income tax as well as value-added tax have been paid to the government will then in return make the provision of public goods and services and also make the provision of social transfers to those that are underprivileged so that there can be improvement of the social welfare in the society and the economy. The business and the government. We know that businesses pay company tax to the government, which can be used by the government in return to make the provision of public goods and services and also give funding to small business that deserve subsidies. And then business sell economic goods and services to government, which are converted to public goods. Remember, those public goods that we see in the societies, those were initially economic goods. They were sold by businesses to the government, if not produced by parastatals. Then in return, the government had to pay for those goods and services to the businesses. The government gave contracts to businesses in a form of the public-private partnerships, and businesses complete those given projects of EPWPs. And then businesses versus the foreign sector. We know that businesses are the main exporters of goods and services in the foreign sector, and in return, they are paid for those exported goods and services. They also import goods and services from the foreign sector, and also they pay for those imported goods and services. Foreign sector import goods and services, especially capital resources, to the local businesses to further their production business objectives. Then businesses in return pay for those imported capital goods as well as the technology. And then we continue, we have what we call the flows, the money flow and the real flow. So it will be detailed in this case so that you can know what is the example of the money flow, what is the example of the real flow. So we have both the money flow and the real flow. Remember, we said money flow is the flow of money between participants in the economy. So if there's a money flow, we mean in the all remunerations are the part of the money flow. And then also the flow of taxes, the flow of savings, the flow of investment, and then the flow of payment for export and the flow of payment for import. That's a money flow. And then the real flow is the flow of goods, services, factors of production. And then also imports and export are the part of the real flow in the economy. So here is the real flow. Real flow explained is a flow of goods and services within the economy. And then we continue. The flow of factors of production from household to businesses, government, and the foreign sector is known as a real flow. If ever factors of production are moving from the household, sold to the government, sold to businesses, sold to the foreign sector, that is known to be a real flow. So we have the likes of goods and services as examples, factors of production, imports, as well as export. These are examples of the real flow in the economy and the circular flow. So we see workers are working in they have sold their labor, so they are working as they're employed in this image or picture. And then also here, we can see the flow of goods and services. So here we have factors of production being sold, and then the side, we have the goods and services. So goods are also sold. You see household is holding on goods, then they are going back home from the product market, meaning that's a flow of goods and services, which is also a part of the real flow. The money flow. So money flow is the flow of money within the economy between all active participants. Like I mentioned before, it can include the flow of all remunerations from households, from firms to the household, from government to the household, the flow of savings, the flow of taxes, the flow of investments, borrowings, and the flow of payment for the imports and exports. The flow of remunerations for factors of production, the flow of savings, the flow of taxes, the flow of investments, expenditure, financial capital are some examples of the money flow in the circular flow. So the payment for goods and services is the money flow. as we saw in the circular flow, household paying for goods and services, remunerations in terms of wages, salaries, interest, profits, and rent are the part of the money flow. Savings and borrowing, whenever money is saved to the financial institutions or financial market, that is known as the money flow. Also, if the money is borrowed from the financial markets to the circular flow back to participants, that is known as the money flow. And then you also have taxes. When taxation flow from household to the government, from firm to the government, we call that also the flow of money or the money flow. So we have also investments that are flowing within the economy, financial investments that are part of the money flow. And then remember that money flow and real flow always approach the opposite direction. They don't go to the same direction because there's an expenditure involved in there. So examples, we see taxes and money they're flowing, and then we see savings in place in this picture. So this is also a money flow in the circular flow. The investments are also indicated in terms of money. That's a money flow also in the economy. And then we continue leakages and injections. So let's check now as we talk about injections. Remember, injection is the inflow of money into the economy. The additional income or additional money into the economy is regarded as a part of the injection. It can be in a form of investment spending by businesses. It can be in a form of the government expenditure or government spending, and also payment for import. Those are our injections. Remember, if ever businesses are spending money in the economy, they are putting money in the consumer's pocket. That leads to them having more income and spend more on goods and services. Also, we talk about the likes of government spending. When the government increases its spending, there will be more projects that will be in place in the economy, which will be leading to people getting more income because they will be employed, that will be increasing consumer spending. And then also have payment for exports. If ever goods have been exported, they are paid for. So we receive the foreign currency as a payment for export that can be used to pay for imports, and that money can also be used, or that income can also be used to further the country's objectives in terms of investment and job creation, also improving economic and social infrastructure. Injection represents the introduction of additional money into the economy. Injection is therefore the inflow of money into the country's economy. The symbol of injection is known to be J. We say J equals to. So the formula for injection equals to J. We say J equals to I plus G plus X, which stands for investment spending by whom? By businesses, government spending, as well as payment for exports. So that's a formula for injections. And then we continue the list of injections. There they are listed. Payment for exports are in place there. And then we have government spending, we have investment spending by businesses. And then let's look at them being explained in details. Investment, which is known to be I or capital formation, is an injection when domestic businesses buy more capital goods from other domestic businesses. And then also establishment of businesses or company locally is an injection with a large multiplier effect into the economy. Whenever one establishes the business, that is an injection because it will lead to further growth of the economy of the country. Foreign direct investment to South African economy form a part of valuable injection because it creates more job opportunities as well as has economic growth effect in the country. The increase in capital stocks such as machinery and equipment has the spillover effect on job creation. Whenever machinery have been bought as well as equipment, that will lead people to operate those machines, which will lead to job creation. The government spending. So the government spending, which is known to be G, is when the government spend money to pay to infrastructure projects, payments for wages and salaries, civil servants, the provision of public goods and services, also the provision of social transfers. That forms a part of the government spending. When the government spending increases, the level of income increases in the economy, which results to increase in aggregate demand. We know that when the government increases its spending, there will be more money available in the economy, which will lead to further increase in the aggregate demand, because as the government increases its spending by improving infrastructure, there will be some job creation in the economy, which will lead to people earning income, and then they will be demanding more goods and services. The infrastructure projects by the government form a large portion of job creation in the economy. Whenever there's an improvement of the infrastructure in the economy or society, that will lead to further job being created in the economy. These include both the social and economic infrastructure. If we talk about social infrastructure, we talk about the likes of building schools, building clinics, libraries, city parks, etc. That is known as the social infrastructure. And then economic infrastructure, we talk about the likes of having to invest on building airports, the harbors, etc. That are the part of economic infrastructure, because they are there to ensure that economy is doing very well. A business can invest easily in that particular economy. And then the payment for export, which is known to be export earnings, are spending by foreigners on the domestic goods and service. Whenever goods have been produced, then they are sold abroad, we earn payment for export in terms of the foreign currency. When local businesses sell more goods and services to the foreign sector, the flow of spending, production, and income will be increasing, because our local firms will be increasing income as the payment for those goods that have been sold abroad or into the foreign markets. Foreign spending on local minerals and other raw materials is a great injection into the economy. If ever foreign businesses are spending on buying our minerals and also buying raw materials, that's a greater injection in the economy, because the country will be earning more of the foreign currency, which will be greater to improve the national income of the country. The increase in the volume of export has a stimulus effect on the gross domestic product, gross national income, as well as economic growth. Whenever we increase we have more volume of export, that is very much great for the economy. So it's an injection, because there will be more inflow of money as a payment for those exported goods and services, which will be good for the economic growth, the growth of national income, and the growth of national product also within the economy. How do injections affect the economy? Remember, we said those are injections. Money is flowing in. Whenever there's more money added in the economy, there will be more demand for goods and services, and that will lead to further growth in terms of the economy. Injections have a positive impact into the economy. The increase in the injections increase the economy, while the decrease in injections will decrease the economy. So if ever injections are increasing, economy will increase, and if ever they are decreasing, economy will decrease. There is therefore a positive relationship between injections as well as the economy, because as injections are increasing, also the economy will be increasing. The higher are the injections, the higher is the economy. The lower are the injections, the lower is the the lower are the injections, the lower is the economic performance. Then we talk of leakages now. Remember, leakages include savings, taxation, as well as payment for exports. Why savings are the leakages? Remember, when money is saved in the financial institution or financial market, that money is not available within the circular flow, or is not available within the circulation. It is kept, it is not spent or used. Whenever money is being taxed or income is being taxed, that income cannot be spent because it belongs to the government. And then payment for imports is a leakage, because the money flows out of the country's economy, which can lead to the decrease in South African income. And then leakage is any flow of money which does not give a rise to further round of income within the economy. And then leakages represent the withdrawal or the outflow of money from the economy. The symbol of leakages, the symbol L is, reflect or denote leakages. We say L equals to, as we explain, leakages. Leakages represent the outflow of money from the economy. When money is flowing out, you have to understand this. Whenever money is being saved, that money cannot be spent or consumed. It's a leakage because it takes money away from the circulation. Remember, when we talk of the multiplier, you will be getting that point that whenever money is saved, the money cannot flow easily from one person to another, because it is kept in the custody or in the savings. And then also we talk about taxation. When money is, when income is being taxed, that decreases disposable income. Therefore, consumers or households will be spending less of their income, because the government have taken a certain portion for taxation. Same thing applies with imports. Imports become leakages, because as we buy goods from the foreign countries or foreign sector, those imports must be paid for, and that leads to the flow of income from South Africa to the foreign sector, which decreases our income. The increase in some of leakages decreases the economy. So if leakages are increasing, the economy will be decreasing. These illustrate a negative relationship or inverse relationship between leakages as well as the economy. As they increase, the economy decreases. As they decrease, the economy increases. The formula for leakages is L equals to S savings plus T taxation plus M, which is payment for imports. And then savings are explained. Savings, which is known to be S, is a leakage, since it is a part of income of the household that is not spent. This income is not disposable. It is kept in the financial sector, so it's not available in circulation. So we say savings are the part of leakages because they withdraw money away from the circulation from household or from firms. So an increase in savings by the household will decrease the flow of spending. Consumers will be spending less if ever they are saving most of their income. Production and income, since households spend less on consumption. So if ever savings are increasing, consumers will be spending less on their income. Net savings is the difference between borrowings, loans by household, and savings. It is the net amount that is the leakage. Money saved is not available in circulation for consumption spending. It is therefore detrimental to production, consumption, GDP, and economic growth in the short run. The taxation. The introduction of taxation to spending or income decreases the real income and also decreases disposable income. It's been mentioned before that whenever government intervenes by taxing income, that will be decreasing the disposable income and will be decreasing the spending because the consumers will remain with less income available with them if ever more money is being taxed. So it is therefore a leakage because it withdraws money away from the circulation. The decrease in the spending in the economy caused by taxation is detrimental or decreases the production of goods and services and even further investment by businesses. So whenever there's a decrease in spending in the economy caused by a high level of taxation, that will be leading to less production, less demand for goods and services. It can affect the economy negatively. Any kind of taxation withdraws money from the economy. Whenever the money or income is being taxed, that will lead to the decrease in disposable income in the economy. And then imports or payment for imports. Payment for imports is the outflow of money from the local economy. It has a negative effect on local economy because domestic produces are compromised at the benefit of imports. Whenever we import goods that can also be produced locally, that's bad because local products cannot be consumed abroad, but we'll be buying foreign imported goods and services, which is also bad because money will be flowing out of the economy, not increasing our very own economy domestically as the nation. The imports, which is MOZ, are spending on foreign goods and services. If consumers demand the most of imports, local businesses are discouraged, and that lowers the level of productivity within the country, GDP, as well as economic growth. As consumers, if we demand most of imported goods, while those goods can be produced locally or are also produced locally, our local firms will be discouraged to produce even more. That will lead to them even shutting down because they will be facing the foreign unfair competition. That will lead to our economic growth declining, productivity declining, GDP will also decline because local goods are not consumed, but foreign goods are consumed. So the total leakages, which is L equals to net savings, net taxes, as well as payment for imports. Total injections are J equals to investment spending by businesses, government spending, as well as spending on imports or spending on exports or export themselves, which is known to be X. That's a total of injections. So the economy is in equilibrium when injections are equal to leakages. So we have economic equilibrium whenever we have J being equals to L. Injections are equals to leakages. That is called economic equilibrium. So whenever leakages are more than injections, economy will be decreasing. Oppositely, whenever injections are more than leakages, economy will be increasing. So injections has a positive, they have a positive effect in the economy, and leakages have negative impact in the economy. So if J equals to L, we come across economic equilibrium, it prevails. Then we have circular flow markets. We have 4 of them in the open economy. Remember, we are dealing with the open economy. So we have the likes of the factor market, the product market, the financial market, as well as the foreign exchange market. Remember, we said the factor market is the market where factors of production are traded. The product of goods market is the market where goods and services are traded, which includes 3 markets, namely the capital goods market, consumer goods market, as well as services market. Those consumer goods market can be classified to durable consumer goods, semi-durable consumer goods, as well as non-durable consumer goods. And then we have financial market, which is the market where all financial securities are traded. So it is not directly involved in production. However, it acts as a mediator between all participants. It is subdivided into 2, namely the money market as well as the capital market. Remember, money market is the market for short-term loans and deposits by the private sector, while capital market is the market for long-term loans and deposited by the private sector. We have the likes of also foreign exchange market, which is the market where different world currencies are exchanged. So we know that South African currency is freely exchanged in this market, and we also have the largest foreign exchange markets in the world, which include, which are in Tokyo, London, as well as New York. So it is very important because it allows for international transaction to take place as well as international trade. It allows for international tourism, also allows for foreign direct investments to occur across the world. So let's look at them in details because it's an essay. The factor market or input or resource market. We also call this one input market or resources market. Why we call this one input market? It is because factors of production are also known to be inputs that will be converted to the output as for the productivity. The factor market is the market where factors of production are traded. These factors of production include labor, capital, land, as well as natural resources. As well as entrepreneurship. It is also known to be input or resource market. This is where resources that are basic for the production to occur are found. Those are factors of production. Firms and the government buy factors of production such as labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and the natural resources or land as the real flow from household through this market or through the factor market. All four factors of production are paid for, they are remunerated. We have the likes of wages and salaries paid for labor, interest on capital, rent for land, as well as profit for what? For entrepreneurship. That is known to be a money flow. Labor market is a component of this market where labor is traded. So where we can find labor or where business can find labor, that is known to be a labor market within the factor market. Production cannot occur without factors of production or without factor market because it possesses key inputs which are transformed to output. So we cannot produce, or business cannot produce without availability of the factor market because this factor market contains these key inputs or these key factors of production which are very important that are convertible to goods and services within the economy. And then we have this the factor market simplified. We have factors of production. We have the likes of the real flow and the money flow in there. Remember, whenever they are flowing from household to other participants, they are part of real flow. Whenever they are paid for, they are part of the money flow. So we have labor for wages and salaries, capital that earn interest, land or natural resource that earn or receive rent, and then we have entrepreneurship that earns the profit. The goods or product market. So product market is the market where goods and services are traded. We know that it's where goods and services are traded. So that can include even capital goods or consumer goods, including services. Goods market is subdivided into consumer goods, also capital goods, as well as services market. There are three markets that are found in the goods or product market. Consumer goods market is the market where consumers buy final goods and services to satisfy their needs and wants. It contains the likes of durable consumer goods, which can last for a longer period of time, semi-durable consumer goods, which can be used more than once, non-durable consumer goods, which can only be used once. And then capital goods market is the market where capital goods such as machinery and equipment are traded by businesses so that they can further their production objectives or business objectives. The services market is the market where services are traded or they can be found. The product market is not directly involved in production, but it acts as a mediator between consumers and producers. So it does not produce goods and services, but it brings goods closer to consumers as they come from producers. So it does not produce goods, but it makes them available to consumers, nearby consumers, so that they won't be traveling a long distance as they demand goods and services. And then we have the likes of financial market, which is the market where all financial securities are traded. So it is the destination designed for investment, borrowings, and savings. That's where we can invest money, we can borrow money, we can also save our money. Financial market contains insurance companies, commercial banks, central bank, as well as Johannesburg Security Exchange. Financial market is the main market for wealth creation in the economy because that's where all participants can invest or save their money. That's where they can borrow capital to start businesses. So that's why we say it is the market that is very important for the capital formation in the country. It enables the flow of money and capital between economy participants. Remember that economy participants, what do? They get capital. The likes of businesses get capital from financial markets, and then household get loans from financial market. They save their money, they also invest their money into the financial market. So financial market is a source of capital for businesses and investors. That's where business get capital so that they can further their business objectives. Financial market acts as a financial custody in the economy. It is not directly involved in production, but it acts as a mediator between participants, because as the household needs money, it will be borrowing money from from financial markets, and then the money will be taken back into the circular flow. Then they will then demand goods and services. And then also, if businesses need capital, they will borrow money from financial sector or financial market, and then the money will be flowing back into the circular flow. That money can be used to buy machines and equipment to further business objectives. That's why we say it acts as a mediator between participants, but it's not directly involved in production, because there are no goods that are produced in the financial market. The financial market is divided into two, which includes money market as well as the capital market. So they are explained, both of them. The money market is the market where for short-term loans and deposits by the private sector, and then also the banking sector, insurance companies, and the central bank are the main components of the money market. It is controlled, like for South Africa, the money market is controlled by the South African Reserve Bank. Households, businesses, and government are the main participants in the money market, because that's where they save or invest their money. Debentures, treasury bills, and government bonds are traded in the money market. In South Africa, the money market is controlled by South African Reserve Bank, which is known to be SARB. And then the capital market, this is the market for long-term loans and deposits by the private sector. Does not include the government. Mortgage bonds are the examples of the capital market. And then we go further, and then it is controlled by Johannesburg Security Exchange, JSE. It is a key industry that controls the capital market. Shares are traded in the capital market. The foreign exchange market. Remember, this is the market where different world currencies are traded. The foreign exchange market is the market where foreign currencies are exchanged to pay for imports, debentures, as well as international transactions. And then this transaction occur in financial market. So it is very important for you to know this. If we talk about the foreign exchange market, we talk about where currencies can be traded, but then those currencies can mainly be exchanged in the financial market. So that means the foreign exchange market, like in South Africa, you can exchange your rand to dollars. You can go to Absa, you can go to FNB or any other bank that can enable you to exchange the South African rand to the foreign currency. So these transactions that include foreign exchange markets or currencies occur in financial institutions or financial markets. The biggest foreign exchange markets in the world are in London, New York, and Tokyo. And then also our South African rand is freely traded in these markets, since it is not controlled by the state. And then the importance of the foreign exchange market. It is very important, because remember, if we don't have the foreign exchange market, it will be impossible for us to pay for imported goods and services. It will also be impossible for us to be involved in international transactions or international economic activities, because we won't be having the foreign currencies that are necessary for us to trade with other countries. So the foreign exchange markets are very important in the world. They enable the foreign trade to occur, enable the international tourism to occur. So the foreign exchange market enables exchange of goods and sales between world countries, making the world currencies available. So there will be foreign trade because of foreign exchange market. It is necessary for international tourism as well as the foreign direct investment. Remember, whenever we tour to the foreign country, what do? We cannot tour using our rands. We must sell our rands and buy the foreign currency so that we can tour, because our rand is not the legal tender in the foreign country. Also, if we want to invest abroad as South African businesses, our business must be able to convert South African rand by buying the foreign currencies. By doing that, they will then be able to invest in the foreign countries using their very own currencies, because South African rand is not the legal tender in other world countries. The foreign exchange market play a crucial or critical role in facilitating the cross-border trade, investment, and financial transactions. It allows for those transactions to occur that are international. These markets allow firms making transaction in the foreign currencies to convert the currencies or deposit so that they can be able to pay whatever they want to pay for in the foreign currencies. So it will allow our businesses, for instance, if they want to pay for machines that were imported, they will be able to exchange our rands into those foreign currencies and pay for those machines or capital goods that were imported from other world countries. Then we move to the national accounts, which is the part of system of national accounts, or SNA. This one is very important because SNA simply provide us with the guideline or the benchmark that should be followed when compiling national accounts. As we compile national accounts, we try to discover the flow of goods, services, money, expenditure between all participants. We want to discover how does the money and factor of production flow from one sector to another, which includes the foreign sector. So here we have what we call income method, the production method, as well as the expenditure method. So we'll be dealing with them. Remember, income method measures the total income earned by factors of production, and then also a production method measures total contribution made by each economic sector, and then expenditure method measures the expenditure by each economic sector, namely household sector, business sector, government sector, as well as the foreign sector. So it talks to participants. So the income method labeled as Y. Remember, in economics, we say Y represent income here. Income method measures total income earned by all factors of production in the economy, namely labor, capital, land, as well as entrepreneurship. These factors of production are inputs integrated to generate the output in the economy. So they are very important because they will be ensuring that we have output. The utilization of each factor of production and the remuneration, which sum to the GDP at factor cost. So we add all of those remuneration, then we'll be getting GDP at factor cost. Remunerations are wages and salaries for labor, interest on capital, rent for land, as well as profit for entrepreneurship. The factor cost now. It is the total cost of all factors of production consumed or used in the production of goods and services. So if we talk of the factor cost, we refer to the total cost for all factors of production that were used in the production. And then factor cost is calculated by adding all factors of production used in the production process of goods and services, which include the likes of compensation for employees, net operating surplus, as well as consumption on fixed capital. Remember, the compensation for employees include labor. Net operating surplus, the part of what? The part of what we call entrepreneurs, because they're the ones that are receiving net profit. Then consumption on fixed capital, in there we have the likes of capital as a factor of production, as well as the land can be a part of that one. Compensation for employees is the cost of labor in a form of wages and salaries, while net operating surplus is the profit or net profit earned by entrepreneurs. Compensation for employees explained. Compensation for employees is defined as the total remuneration or income in cash or in kind payable by an enterprise to an employee in return for work done during the accounting period. Compensation for employees has two main components, which are wages and salaries. So that's labor we are talking about. So I am sure it's clear now. Compensation for employees contribute the most in country's national income. We know that it is the main contributor, which indicates that most of income goes to labor in the South African economy. This indicates that the cost of labor cost is the highest amongst all factors of production in the economy or in South African economy. The net operating surplus, remember surplus is an extra, so in this case we regard that as a profit. Net operating surplus amount, if any, by which operating revenue for that period exceeds the operating expenses for the period, for that particular period. So that is known to be the profit earned by businesses after sales. So this is the profit made by enterprises or businesses as they compare their income and expenditure. We call that a net operating surplus. This is this is a net operating surplus. This net operating surplus is earned after all taxable income has been subtracted with all costs, which include cost of land, cost of capital, as well as the cost of labor. Then the business can be compiling their books to say they've earned the profit or net operating surplus. The net operating surplus is earned by entrepreneurs for a particular accounting period. Consumption on fixed capital. Remember, if we talk about the CFC, we refer to the depreciation or the value lost by an asset during the course of the production. We know that whenever we use machines lose their value during the course of production, and as they get to be older, the consumption of fixed capital will be increasing. While they are new, it will be lower. So CFC as consumption of fixed capital reflect the decline in the value of a fixed asset for enterprises, government, and owners of dwellings in the household sector. And then fixed asset decline in the value due to normal tear and wear. We know that as we use the machine, it loses its value. We call that the normal tear and wear because the value will be degraded for that particular asset as it keeps on being used to produce goods and services. CFC is used in preference to depreciation to emphasize that fixed capital is used up in the process of generating the new output. The capital can be used up, can be exhausted as we produce goods and services. So that means the capital can depreciate in daily basis as it's being used to produce goods and services. CFC is the decline during the course of the accounting period in the current value of stock of fixed asset owned and used by the producer as a result of physical degradation, normal accident, or the loss. It is normally it's normally increased as the asset get to be older. So as the machine is new today that maybe the company has bought, the consumption on fixed capital is still very, very low. If it keep on being used at the end of the year after 12 months, the value will be lower. If it was purchased by 12,000, the asset will have dropped or lost the value very, very much in that case. So meaning it cannot be sold through 12,000, but the amount of money to be sold will be lower because it has lost its value because of tear and wear. And then here we are converting GDP at factor cost. What do? We say compensation for employees, which is the income paid to labor in terms of wages and salaries. And then we say net operating surplus is also positive. We add it, which is the profit earned by businesses. And then we add consumption on fixed capital, which is the depreciation lost by an asset. And then we get the GDP at the factor cost. This is the one. They are all positive. They are added. So if one asks you to convert GDP at factor cost using income method, these are the three additions that you must take into account. Then you combine them together in addition, then you get the GDP at the factor cost. The basic price. Basic price is the cost of output within the factory phase before taxes on products are added and subsidies are subtracted. So if we talk about the basic price, we talk about the cost of the product before it reaches the market, the cost of the product within the factory phase, before the taxation has been added and before the subsidy on product has been subtracted. Basic price is convertible when GDP at factor cost is added to taxes on production minus subsidies on production. Then we discover GDP at the basic price there. Then we continue with the taxes on production. Taxes on production refer to taxes on production that are not linked to a specific good per unit. So in this case, we refer to the example of payroll taxes, business licenses, and property taxes paid by businesses. Those are taxes on production because they are payable during the production process. We also have the likes of subsidies on production, which are the subsidies that are not linked to the specific product per unit. In this case, we talk about employment subsidies given by the government to firms so that they can produce more goods at the lower cost. Government happen to subsidize businesses so that they can employ more workers and pay them that relevant income which is required as for the minimum wage. And then we convert to GDP at the basic price. We take GDP at factor cost, we plus other taxes on production, we subtract other subsidies on production. Then in that case, we'll be getting the GDP at the basic price. And then GDP at the market price, remember, market price refers to the prices paid by consumers when they buy goods and services in the market. That is known to be a market price. It becomes a market price because it is having the inclusion of taxes on product, which is the value-added tax that will be imposed on those goods and services in the market. If you can check, the basic price is always lower than the market price because basic price does not include the value-added tax or taxes on product, but the what you call the market price includes such. They include taxes on product and less or minus subsidies on product. That is what we call market price. Market prices are considered as the current prices because they change with the change in the inflation. Market prices are always higher than basic prices because they have an effect of value-added tax, which is known to be taxes on product, which increases the selling price for the particular product than when you buy it from the factory. If you buy it from the factory, you buy it at the basic price because it is less taxes. They have not been included taxes on products. This inflates earnings and contributions by the tertiary sector in the country's GDP. That's why we normally see tertiary sector contributing the most in the economy, because it sells goods that are value added. They have the likes of value added tax also imposed on them. Then they will be sold at the higher cost. Then now this is an example. We convert GDP at basic price to GDP at market price. What do? We say GDP at basic price plus taxes on products minus subsidies on products. You ask a question right now. Why are we adding taxes and minus subsidies? Remember, a value-added tax must be added on the product so that, when it reaches the market, so that it can be sold at the market price. And then why subsidies are subtracted on product? They are subtracted so that we can discover the actual cost of the product. Because if ever it is subsidized, that means it is distorted, does not give the true reflection of the cost of the product. Then we discover GDP at the market price. And then we have to discover the gross national income. That's why now we say GDP at the market price plus the primary income from the rest of the world minus primary income to the rest of the world. What is that? If we talk about primary income from the rest of the world, we refer to the income earned by South African factors of production abroad. Those people that have sold their factors of production, the likes of labor, entrepreneurship, capital, and land, they will be paid for. In that case, that income must be added because it is received by South Africa. And then if South Africa have employed some workers from abroad, and then also employed entrepreneurship from abroad, employed capital from abroad, that will lead to what? It will lead to us having to subtract that amount of money because it is the outflow of money from South African economy. Then we will discover the gross national income. Then we say GDP at the market price plus the primary income from the rest of the world minus the primary income to the rest of the world, we get the gross national income. That was your income method. Then let's check expenditure method. So expenditure method is a system of calculating the gross domestic product, GDP, that combines consumption spending by the household, investment spending by businesses, government spending, as well as the net export by the foreign sector. This method comprises the sum of expenditure in the economy by all economic sectors. So we check the expenditure by each economic sector, which include household sector, business sector, government sector, as well as the foreign sector. Spending that occur within the borders of the country is regarded as the gross domestic expenditure. Whenever we spend excluding the foreign sector, whenever there's a household spending, business spending, or consumption spending by the household, investment spending by businesses, and government spending, that is known to be the gross domestic expenditure because the expenditure occurs within the boundaries of the country. There is no inclusion of the foreign sector through exports and imports. Gross domestic expenditure excludes the foreign sector. And then consumption spending by the household, let's check. Consumption is normally the largest, the largest GDP component in the economy. So most of the spending in the economy is coming from consumption spending, consisting of the private expenditures, household, final consumption expenditure in the economy. So household are the most spenders in the economy. They contribute the most in the expenditure in South African economy. The personal expenditure fall under one of the following categories: durable consumer goods, semi-durable consumer goods, non-durable consumer goods, as well as services. That's a part of the consumption spending by the household. As households, we buy durable, semi-durable, non-durable, as well as services. The consumption in the above classification creates total consumption spending in the economy. Investment spending by businesses, which is known to be I. Investment includes business investment in equipment, but does not include exchange of existing assets. Spending by household, not the government. On new houses and also included in investment. Whenever households are buying houses, that's a part of the investment. Household spending on personal property is also regarded as a part of the investment in the economy. Investment spending is sum of spending in all assets in the economy. That is regarded to be investment spending. And then we have the government spending, where the government is involved by providing the likes of infrastructure in the economy now. The government spending is a sum of government expenditure on the final goods and services. And then it includes salaries of public servants, purchase of weapons for the military, and also investment investment in the society by also by ensuring that there is infrastructure that is made available. That's a part of the government spending. Then we have something that we call a residual item. Residual item is an item that corrects error that occurs during the calculation of the gross domestic expenditure. The residual item can either be negative or positive. For instance, if ever during the calculation of GDE, gross domestic expenditure, a certain amount of money was not added by mistake, through the residual item, we will be adding that amount of money. But if a certain amount of money was added by mistake on the GDE or gross domestic expenditure, that amount of money must be subtracted because it is there mistakenly. So residual item correct errors or omissions that occur when we calculate the gross domestic expenditure. So it captures omissions in the corrections of accounting errors that occur when calculating the gross domestic expenditure. It corrects calculation errors on consumption spending, investment spending by business, as well as the government spending. If there was an extra addition on the gross domestic expenditure calculation, residual item will be negative because that amount must be subtracted. And if there was a positive amount or there was an added amount by mistake on the GDE, so that will mean if a certain amount was omitted, meaning by mistake the amount of money was not added by mistake on the calculation of GDP, then the residual will be positive, meaning it must be added. Gross domestic expenditure exclude spending on imports and export because it's a domestic, meaning local expenditure, does not include the foreign sector. Then we have the net export. GDP captures the amount of countries' produces, including goods and services produced for other nations. Consumption, therefore, exports are added. In this case, we talk about goods and services that have been produced locally and sold abroad. So if we talk of net exports, we talk about the difference between exports and imports. GDP also captures the amount of foreign goods imported into the country. The amount is subtracted because that is the outflow of money. Remember, imports are the leakages, therefore they must be subtracted from South African economy because they don't bring further growth in the income, but the income will be flowing out of the country. The difference between imports and exports is known to be the net exports. Here we are now, the expenditure method in place here. We have the final consumption spending by the household. We have final consumption spending by the government. The capital formation, remember, is known as an investment by businesses. Then we have residual items here, which are negative, meaning the certain amount was added by mistake on the above. Then we have the gross domestic expenditure. So in this case, we come across the gross domestic expenditure. Then after we take that amount of money, we add a payment for exports, we subtract payment for imports, we get GDP at the market price bracket E for expenditure method. And then we have the production method, which is the last method. The method is determined by calculating the sum of the value added at each stage of production process. The method yields the gross value added. And then in there we have the likes of primary sector. So remember, the production method simply measures the contribution by each economic sector of the three in the economy: primary sector, secondary, as well as the tertiary sector. So the primary sector is the economic sector that deals with the extraction and the collection of raw materials from nature. The primary sector is the lowest contributor in South African GDP because it sells raw materials that are less value added. The contribution of primary sector has been declining over the past years due to declining agricultural produces or activities as well as mining activities. Primary sector deals with the genetic operation as well as exploitative operation. Remember, if we talk about genetic operations, we talk about those natural resources that can be able to grow up again, and then they are renewable. Exploitative, they are non-renewable. Secondary sector is the sector that process raw materials from natural state to the final goods and services. That is known to be secondary sector. Secondary sector is also known to be manufacturing sector in the economy because it manufactures goods and services. In secondary sector, natural resources or raw materials are transformed into and given economic value. So they will be given extra value from primary sector to be some of the finished goods, then they can be transferred to the tertiary sector. Secondary sector is the second highest contributor in South African GDP. The lowest is the primary sector, second is the secondary sector, and third is tertiary sector. And then we have tertiary sector or services sector. So this is the economic sector that deals with the provision of services in the economy. There is no production that takes place in there, but it's a service sector because services are taking place. And then it's also known as the services sector. Services like transport, banking services, insurance services, communication services, etc., are provided by the tertiary sector. These also include the likes of computer repairs, also cell phone repair services. Those are services that are provided by the tertiary sector. They are not producing, but they are providing services. Tertiary sector is the highest contributor in the country's GDP. It contributes the most. And then here is our production method being calculated. Primary sector is positive, secondary is positive, as well as tertiary is positive. We get what we call the GVA, or gross value added. And then we continue. We add taxes on products, we minus subsidies on products. Then what do we get? GDP at the market price bracket, a production method. That is our production method being calculated here. And then as we are finishing the methods, let's get the reasons why the primary sector has been declining over the past years in South Africa. Climate change has hampered the growth of the primary sector due to the drought, hard rains, unfavorable weather conditions that have led to the decline in the primary sector. Harvest has declined caused by high cost of production due to technical irrigation system introduced. Due to the drought, then have been irrigation systems that have taken place under agriculture. Commodities such as minerals are then exploitative. Mines have been shutting down because of depletion of minerals such as gold, the coal, etc. High volume of imports have led to the less dependence on the local primary sector industries, especially on the food production. We are even the main importers of food from other countries, which means our primary sector is then compromised. That has led to the decline in our primary sector activities. Secondary sector contribution. The contribution by secondary sector into the economy has declined over the past years. What has been the reason for that? The main reason has been the COVID-19, because we have seen that COVID-19 has led to the decline in production. Also, the other reason that is currently in place, the load shedding part, where there is a cut of electricity in most of the places. That has led to businesses having to find some ways of producing. Others simply shut down during the course of load shedding and wait until the electricity returns. That have led to the decline in the contribution by the secondary sector in the economy. Weak South African rand against the first world countries' currencies have led to the high cost of production. Why? Remember, we depend on our currency. Our currency must be strong for our local businesses to import capital goods or machines. So if capital goods, if our currency is very weak, those machines will be expensive, which will be increasing the cost of production by businesses or manufacturing sector. And that will lead to some business not affording those machines because they are highly expensive, resulting to the decline in the inputs or production by the secondary sector. Tertiary sector contribution. It remains as the highest contributor in South African economy or GDP. It contributes about 60-something% in our GDP in South Africa. All goods and services for survival and leisure are provided by the tertiary sector in South African economy. Most of expenditure in the economy occurs in the tertiary sector because that's where final goods or finished goods are found or are sold. Then we move to the nominal GDP as well as real GDP. Remember, the nominal GDP refers to the GDP at the current prices. This is the GDP that has not been adjusted for inflation. It is an inflated GDP. It uses the current prices. And then it refers to GDP figures that have not been adjusted for inflation. Inflation has not been removed, or it is having the inflation effect. So its figures are distorted by inflation. They've been increased by inflation. For instance, we assume that GDP has increased this year. However, it has not increased because it's only inflation that has increased. So that's why we say it shows us distorted figures. Nominal GDP figures are always higher than real GDP figures because they have an inflation effect. Using nominal GDP or nominal gross domestic figures distorts GDP. The actual growth trends of GDP are not discovered as they are inflated. And then the real GDP, which is opposite. These are real GDP figures that have been adjusted for inflation. Inflation has been removed. They don't have an effect of the inflation. We call this one GDP at constant prices, meaning the prices remain constant for the given period of time, and they are used to compare the growth of the economy. Like the base year prices, our base year in South Africa is currently 2015, according to the South African Reserve Bank. So if we want to check the growth of the economy comparing 2023 we use 2015 and 2023 to see if there was an actual growth in the economy or not, or there was an inflation. Real GDP figures are not inflated. They don't have inflation effect. South Africa uses 2015 prices as a part of base year prices. So those are our constant prices that can be used to compare if there's an actual growth in the economy or there's only inflation. Real GDP is always lower than nominal GDP because it is without the inflation effect. So the real gross domestic product or GDP figures are used to discover actual growth trends in the economy without the effect or changes in the inflation rate. So they are highly preferred because they give the actual growth trend in the economy that is not distorted by changes in inflation over the years. Then the last part, which is the multiplier, and the very interesting part. Remember, whenever we have income, we have two decisions to make. If we receive income, we have two decisions. We spend and save. We can do that at the same time. But we decide if we spend less and save more, or spend more and save less. That's a very important part on the multiplier creation. On the multiplier, we deal with the notion that spending by someone becomes income for another person. You know better, whenever you buy a product from someone, it's an expenditure for you, but that person receives that as an income. And that person will do the same thing. Will take the amount of money that you have spent, or that he or she has received, will save a certain portion and spend a certain portion. So that simply goes back to the notion that someone's spending becomes someone's income. So we have the multiplier in explanation. We have the likes of MPC and MPS. If we talk about MPC, we talk about the marginal propensity to consume, and MPS, marginal propensity to save. So we have to make two decisions if we have income. We either spend or consume, or then we save the amount of money we have. So there's a spending and the savings here that we make. Then we will be calculating the multiplier, and then we'll talk about relationship between MPC and the multiplier, MPS multiplier, leakages and the multiplier, injections and the multiplier. Then we'll be calculating the multiplier effect. After that, we'll be dealing with the multiplier diagram. That will be the end of our lesson. So the multiplier is based on the principle that spending by one person becomes income for another person, which then becomes that other person's spending, for which then the money will be received and they will be spending again to someone else. The multiplier effect is a process whereby the initial change in spending changes the level of output and income by more than the initial change in the spending. So this implies that a multiplier process occurs in the economy when injections into the circular flow of spending, production, and the income takes place. So there must be injection, spending, and the income in the economy so that we can have the multiplier process. We can't have the multiplier without having the income. There must be income taking place, and then there must be spending. One will have to save also. That will be creating the multiplier process. The multiplier indicates the relationship between the initial injections in the economy and the resulting change in the income, which talks to the multiplier effect. We spend less, we check the final change in the income, which is the multiplier effect. The multiplier continues. The multiplier describes the fact that changes in the spending have the impact on the income on the income that is greater than the change in the expenditure or in spending. The multiplier effect is whereby the small initial change in the spending produces the larger proportionately national income. We spend less amount of money in the economy, but it generates even more money. The macroeconomic multiplier is equal to the change in the income divided by the change in injection. We say K equals to change in Y over change in J. Y is income, J is an injection. The size of the multiplier. The size of the multiplier is determined by either the MPC or MPS, marginal propensity to consume or marginal propensity to save. We decide either we save or consume. Remember, if ever the MPC is more, there will be more size of the size of multiplier will be bigger. If MPC is less, size of multiplier will be less because there is less money circulating in the economy. If MPS is more, that means more money is saved, is not available in circulation. That decreases the size of or the value of the multiplier. But if MPS is less, that means more money has been spent or consumed. That means that now the multiplier will even be more because there are less savings and more consumption. The higher the MPS, the smaller is the multiplier, while the higher is the MPC, the bigger is the multiplier. Therefore, that means that between MPC and the multiplier, we have the positive relationship. Between MPS and the multiplier, we have negative relationship. The marginal propensity to consume indicate how much of the income is spent on the given disposable income. The marginal propensity to save indicate how much of the income is saved on the given disposable income. The MPS and MPC together will be adding up to 1. So we say MPC plus MPS equals to 1. So that simply indicates that if you know the value of MPC, you already know the value of the MPS because they must give you the sum of 1. Then you go further to explain the expenditure on the multiplier, which is known to be autonomous spending. Autonomous spending is the part of spending that is independent of income, the spending that can happen without receiving any income. There is a component of consumption spending which is independent of income. That is known to be an autonomous spending. This is the amount of money a household needs to spend in order to stay alive, regardless of receiving any income. These are daily life savings which can be used at a later stage when there is no more income. It includes personal savings, pension fund, UIF, etc. That amount of money will allow someone to save without having to receive any income from the employer. The level of consumption which is independent of income is known to be autonomous spending. This signifies that consumers can spend even if they are no longer employed because they will be using their savings. And then we have an induced spending. If we talk of an induced spending, we talk about the spending that is dependent on income. It cannot occur without having to receive any income. One must receive income for this particular spending to take place. Unlike autonomous spending, induced spending cannot occur without earning a certain income. Induced spending is likely to be in proportion with the change in income, which influence the multiplier. Meaning, as someone receives more income, it is likely to have more spending in the economy. That's why we say it is likely to be in proportion to the change in the level of income. The increase in the level of consumption increases the value of the multiplier, meaning as we consume more of our income, there will be more multiplier because the MPC will be higher than MPS. The decrease in the level of consumption decreases the value of the multiplier because that will mean most of our income is saved or taxed. So the money that we are having is not directly spent in the economy, which will be decreasing the value of the multiplier because the money will not be moving from one person to another, as for the multiplier principle. Effects of leakages on the multiplier. All leakages are negatively affect the multiplier. So the likes of savings, if savings are decreasing, that means money is not available in circulation. There is less money available. That will be decreasing the value of the multiplier because savings are the leakages. Money is taken away from the circulation or from the flow. Also, we talk about the likes of taxes. If ever taxes are introduced in the economy, that decreases disposable income and result to less the value of the multiplier. Taxes are taking money away from the circulation. So that will always lead to decrease in consumption spending and decrease in the value of the multiplier. Decrease also in investment spending because the government also tax business or investors. So if tax increases, that will lead to less economic injection, which will be decreasing the multiplier or the value of the multiplier. Imports, if ever imports are increasing in the economy, that will mean that most of our income in South Africa is spent on paying for those imports, which is the money that goes or flows out of the domestic economy. If we pay for import, the money flows out of our economy, meaning it decreases the income that can be spent in the domestic economy, which also decreases the value of the multiplier. The marginal propensity to save indicate that the portion of income that can be saved. Increases in savings reduces circulation of money in the economy, and then there can be less spending because there are more savings. Influenced by the current interest rate. The higher is the interest rate, the more saving takes place because people will be getting more returns, and that will be leading to less spending in the economy. The higher is the MPS, the lower is the multiplier, and then the lower is the MPS, the higher is the multiplier. The marginal tax rate indicates how much is spent on tax in the economy. So if ever tax has been introduced, that will lead to less money being spent in the economy, and it will lead to what? It will lead to the decrease in the value of the multiplier. The increase in taxes decreases the level of consumption and reduces the value of the multiplier, because money will be spent on taxes instead of being spent on the economy for goods and services. The higher is the tax rate, the lower is the multiplier. This indicates that the inverse or negative relationship between tax rate as well as the multiplier. The marginal rate to import indicates the percentage of income that is spent on imports. And then if there are more imported goods into the country's economy, more money will be spent on them, so it will be paying for imports. That will mean the money will be flowing out of the country, which will be decreasing the size of the multiplier, meaning the higher is the marginal rate to import, the lower is the size of the multiplier. And then here is the multiplier being calculated now. First, we say multiplier, the multiplier is indicated by K. We say K equals to, this is the formula number 1 over 1 minus MPC. So the second one is 1 over 1 minus 1 over MPS. So we simply divide 1 to MPS, K equal to 1 over MPS. And the third one, which is the macroeconomic multiplier, talks to the change in income to the change in injection. So the other one, when we are given the graph, or we are given changes, or we are given income there, you have to calculate the change in income divided by the change in injection. And then the multiplier effect, which is known to be a change in aggregate national income, we say multiplier effect equals to K times J. So we take the value of the multiplier multiplied by the value of the injection, then you get the multiplier effect. So the multiplier effect relates to how much national income changes as a result of injection or withdrawal. If the money was injected, we check at the later stage how much money was generated by that particular injection. If the money was withdrawn in the economy, we check how much money was taken away by that particular withdrawal or leakage in the economy. Assume an increase in the injection into the economy, investment, government spending, or exports, which would lead to a proportionate increase in the national income. If these are in place, there will be increase in the national income, because there will be high level of multiplier and multiplier effect. The extra spending would have knock-off effect and create even more spending. The multiplier effect is regarded as the change in the aggregate national income. Remember that. So multiplier effect formula is K times J. Remember, as for the multiplier effect, we say it occurs when the smaller initial spending produces the larger proportionately national income. Then what does the Keynesian approach says about the macroeconomic multiplier? John Maynard Keynes argues that if the government wants the economy to grow, they can increase government spending and decrease taxes. We know that if government spending increases, that will lead to more money available in the economy, and then increasing government spending and finance it with loans, meaning the state debt can increase or borrowing, so that there can be more government spending in the economy. They can decrease taxation, put money in pockets for consumers. Whenever taxes have been reduced, the money will be more in consumers' pockets, allowing them to spend more on goods and services. The consumers spend this extra money, aggregate demand will increase, production will increase, employment will also increase. So if we have more income as consumers, we are tempted to spend, so that will be increasing aggregate demand, which will also increase the production, because as consumers demand more, they encourage firms to produce even more goods and services, and that creates a demand for labor by businesses, because there's a high level of demand for goods and services. Government can decrease company taxes, and this can lead to greater investment by businesses. If company taxes have been reduced, that encourage them to even take that amount of money which was a decrease to further their investment objectives. That will be increasing our economy. Then the multiplier calculation. So in this case, we are given the formula K equal to 1 over 1 minus MPC, or K equal to 1 over MPS. Then here is the situation. If MPS is 0.2, and then MPC is 0.8, we calculate the multiplier for 4 marks. It is very important for you to show all calculations. So let's substitute using the first formula. MPC is 0.8. So K equal to 1 over 1 minus MPC, then 1 over 1 minus 0.8. Remember, our MPC is 0.8, and then we continue with the next step. 1 over 0.2, because if you say 1 minus 0.8, you get 0.2. Therefore, it will be 1 over 0.2. Our multiplier equals to 5. Let's check again using another formula for MPS. K equal to 1 over MPS. Let's substitute. Our MPS is 0.2. So 1 over 0.2 will give us 5. So the value of the multiplier equals to 5. So now let's continue with number 2. Injection is 60 billion. Calculate the multiplier effect or the change in the aggregate national income. We go back to the formula. We say multiplier effect equals to K times J. What do we do then? We say K that we got here, which is 5. We say 5 multiplied by 60. 60 is an injection, so that is J. 5 is K, which is the value of the multiplier. Then multiplier effect or the change in national income is 300 billion. That's how we calculate the multiplier. You must keep on practicing so that you can find it easy. Also, it is very important for you to show all calculations when you calculate the value of the multiplier as well as the multiplier effect. It can happen for the assessor or the examiner to simply say, calculate the multiplier effect or the change in aggregate national income if maybe the MPC is 0.75 and then injection in the economy is 20 million. So it is very important for you. It's 8 marks. You must calculate firstly the value of the multiplier before you calculate the multiplier effect, because we have to say value of the multiplier times injection. So you can't simply jump to calculation of the multiplier effect without having the value of the multiplier. So then you can get the value. For instance, if ever the value of MPC is 0.7, our multiplier will be 3.33. And then we have the injection, which is 20 million. And then what do? We say K times J, which will mean multiplier effect equals to 3.33 multiplied by 20, which will be giving us 60.6 million in our multiplier effect. You must practice calculation of the multiplier so that you will be in par. We won't have a problem to obtain these 4 marks or 8 marks. And then we have the multiplier diagram. After I've explained the likes of autonomous spending, induced spending, then we have the multiplier graph here indicated. Remember, we have vertical axis that are having expenditure and horizontal that is having the level of income. That is expenditure, that is our income. And then we have our 45-degree line here, which up there it's indicated by E equals to Y, indicating that expenditure along this line equal to the income. That will be indicated by the equilibrium point. Here we have our autonomous spending line, which is independent of income. Then you see wherever there's an intersection between the investment line or autonomous spending line and the 45-degree line, we come across the equilibrium. There you see E in there, indicating that income is equal to the expenditure along there. And then that is aggregate expenditure. Everything starts at 0, and then there it indicating autonomous spending line. And then this one is a 45-degree line. And then we continue with another one. Then we have vertical axis as well as horizontal axis. We have our expenditure and the income. Thereafter, we have our 45-degree line in there having E equals to Y, meaning expenditure equals to the income. After that, we have our Y there, which stand for income. Then we connect our axis on the income, and then that will be giving us equilibrium, which is the original equilibrium. And then we also have E, and then after that, we come across the new investment or injection in the economy. That will be shifting our investment line up. So it goes up. As it goes up, that simply indicates that there will be a new equilibrium point in there. As we have a new equilibrium point there, that will be E1, indicating that it's a new equilibrium. So it's indicated by E1. And then we label AE equal to C plus I, and then AE1 equal to C1 plus I1. Then after we label, we indicate the increase in the in the injection in the economy, as well as the increase in the level of income in the economy. So the expenditure increases at the same rate as there's an increase in in the income in the economy. Remember, we said E equals to Y. So from this point to here, it's equal income expenditure equal to the income. There you see it. And then also we assume, let's say we have 20 billion here, we have 40 billion here. We'll also have 20 billion here, and then we have 40, indicating that along along the 45-degree line where it intersects with the what we call the investment line, we have the equilibrium, meaning expenditure equals to the income is 20, is 20, it's 40, it's 40. That's your multiplier diagram. It is very important that you are also able to draw it and explain it, because it can come in your assessments that are on the way for this. Remember, we have not been assessed on anything. Also, it is very important that you note if there are values here, we are able to use the formula that the macroeconomic multiplier formula that says K equals to changes in Y over changes in J. Then there are three ways of calculating the multiplier, provided which one is required by the assessor or the examiner. With all of this being said, I thank you, and I believe this lesson will have a great impact as you will be browsing on it and preparing for your upcoming assessments for macroeconomics. Remember, most of you struggle with the multiplier in this chapter, so it's very important for you to revisit it. Remember the main principle of MPC plus MPS equals to 1. So by knowing that if you are given the MPC, you will know the value of MPS, then you are able to substitute as you calculate the value of the multiplier there correctly. Then you can also calculate the multiplier effect by using K times J, where you take the value of the multiplier, multiplied by the given injection, you get the value of the multiplier effect. I thank you. We meet again on our next session, where I will be doing what we call the business cycles. Thank you.